In this video, I'm going to be talking about my physical therapy that I had for my pelvic floor. And this is also a trigger warning about mental health and abuse as well. So I'm 28 now, almost 29, and when I was 22, I had pelvic floor physical therapy. So it was a really wonderful time, and I loved my therapist so much. It was incredible. Um, Unfortunately, for about a year and a half leading up to this, I was having various issues. So I went to my pelvic floor physical therapist for three reasons. One, because I was having severe constipation. I had never really had bowel issues like this before this, and it was to the point, and I realize now that it was because of severe anxiety I was having in my life, particularly within some relationships that I was in. And what was happening was that I had never really burped before, like even like drinking fizzy drinks, I never really burped before. But what was happening was I was constantly burping. So all my air was going up and no air was pushing anything down. And so that was an issue, and it was just frustrating and painful and not very practical. Another thing that was happening, which was probably the most concerning to me, was I was having UTI symptoms for about a year and a half, but I didn't have a UTI. I kept getting tested, I kept taking antibiotics, I never had a UTI. So that was really the most distressing, just day to day, constantly for me, because it was getting to the point where I couldn't work, where every like 10 to 15 minutes I was peeing, but I hardly peed anything. It hurt when I peed. I was straining, and like it was mostly it was like the urgency to pee. It was just constantly like I couldn't think of anything else but this constant, like, usually when you need to pee really bad, like say you're on a road trip and you are waiting to pull over but it takes 5 minutes, and that urge you have because you know you need to go and you're about to go and you're like, oh, I feel uncomfortable and I'm walking up to the toilet now and I feel the most uncomfortable. It was that feeling constantly. And no matter how much water I drank, how often I went, it was not getting better. And that was just the most dysfunctional thing about this at this time. It was incredibly frustrating. So what happened, the third reason I went is because anytime that I was having intercourse at that time, it was incredibly painful. And so that wasn't working out well for me either. So I finally went to this pelvic floor physical therapist for all these reasons, and all of them did get solved, and I feel so amazing, and the information I have now can even help, even if you don't have any of these issues or like this extreme. If you're having any issues within those of urination, defecation, or intercourse, in any reasons, like including pregnancy and age as well, doing these things can help. I'm just incredibly excited to share what I learned, and it was an amazing time. This woman was just so kind, and I felt so safe. Also, when all of these things started happening was around when I was 20 or 21. And here's where the biggest trigger warning comes in. And I've talked about this in previous videos as well. But for the first 4 years of my life, I was sexually assaulted. So I did not remember that after the age of 4, due to, for me, dissociation and DID. And I didn't remember that. I had a trauma holder that I never had access to, that I was being hidden away, never knew that it happened, and I was never told either. So instead, when I was about 20, I inadvertently was told on accident, basically. It was a confusing time. And it was really disturbing. For the first 6 months, I just didn't believe it. I was told that, and I was and I like someone asked me like, did that really happen? And I just said, no, that didn't happen. I mean, this caregiver did was really abusive in other ways, but that didn't happen, right? And I firmly believe that for quite a few months. Like it didn't even register in my head. And then, I don't know, maybe in the 4th or 5th month or something, I started having flashbacks. I started having very particular memories I've never been told about, memories I never remembered before, that I will not go into any of these details. And it was really distressing to me. And so eventually, about 6 months after this, I asked someone I trusted if they could confirm or deny, did this really happen? I've never been told this. Even when someone asked me, did this happen? It was just that, like, did assault happen? But none of these details, none of these like flashback memories that were occurring to me. So I asked this person that I trusted, did these specific details take place? And they said yes. And what was more disturbing to me was they said, also, you asked me this about a month ago. And that was just devastating to me. Like, already, like, you know, the essay was devastating enough, but to know that my mind had so tightly wrapped up this 4 years of trauma in the first 4 years of my life, that when I asked the first time, I still to this day had no memory of asking this person the first time if this happened. I only remember the second time I asked them and how, like, out of control I felt when they told me, and you asked me this about a month ago. So that was just devastating, and really disturbing, obviously. But that's also around the time when all of these issues started happening. So I don't know to what extent it played in all that versus other stressors in my life, the very dysfunctional relationships I was in at the time as well. But talking to my physical therapist, she did say childhood SA, or just SA in general, oftentimes causes the issues she saw me having. So I believe that it definitely was a factor, unfortunately. So now I can get into the tools that helped me. So we'll go with them all separately. So first, when we're talking about having bowel movements, she taught me basically how to use the restroom, which was very helpful. I hadn't been given any instructions, you know, since I was a toddler, none of which I now remember. So one of the most important things I got was a squatty potty so that my feet are elevated. And I even did a video about this on my TikTok as well, explaining it in detail. But basically, you want your legs to be, I can't do that with my arm, to be at like a 90-degree angle. So your knees aren't higher up, they're not lower down. I mean, I guess they could be higher up as well, but like you want more of your heel to be under your knee. I don't know, you don't want your feet out or turned in. You want to really relax everything. And what I was doing was I was so frustrated. I was pushing, I was really bearing down, and that was my issue too. She usually sees people, was it called bearing up? But for me in particular, I was always constantly bearing down. It was like I was trying to push all the trauma, all the life out of me, just get out. But when I was using the restroom, I was bearing down and just pushing and straining, like holding my breath. So instead, she told me first, never be on the toilet more than like 5 minutes if you're not continuously going, you know, if you're having some type of discomfort that way. So she's saying, don't put any pressure on yourself, sit on the toilet for 5 minutes, then get up. Like if you sit for more than 5 minutes, you're putting strain on your leg muscles, and that's not healthy for you. And she told me never to squeeze, never to bear down, or never to, you know, hold your breath unless you're at like the very last moment and things are releasing, right? But other than that, she told me to like kind of make that sound, or she actually told me to like moo like a cow and just go like, even make it sound like and like this of releasing and opening out and allowing things to move out. So for me, that was the most important. I mean, also drinking water, having fibrous foods, but for me mostly was having a squatty potty and was no longer straining or squeezing my muscles, and not sitting on the toilet longer than 5 minutes, because really it helped my mental health too, because I was so disappointed in myself. I was so angry at my body. I hated having my body. I just viewed my body with my chronic pain as well, which I've made videos about, that my body, I just felt betrayed all my life by my body. And so now it was like, great, now there's this new thing. I feel betrayed for my body. I hate myself. I hate my body. I hate my thoughts. I hate that this is happening. And all that was just making me more and more stressed and more pain. So it was important to be really kind to myself. And I talk really kindly to myself too. I don't have these issues anymore. But I was talking to myself and saying, like, even rubbing my stomach or just rubbing my arms or something, or my legs, and saying, hey, it's okay. I'm so sorry you're going through this pain, instead of being like, how dare you fucking, have me go through this pain. I hate you, body. I would let those thoughts come to the surface and pass. And instead, I would say, thank you so much for taking care of me. I'm sorry you're in so much pain for now. There's no pressure to do anything right now. I'm here for you. Maybe we can drink some warm water, lay in our stomach later, and, take all the time you need. I've got you. I'm going to take care of you. So, like, talking to your body more like you would a child versus someone who's, like, wronging you. So that was really helpful. She also taught me about, like, how a bowel movement, ought to look, and things like that, which you can look into. So anyway, so that was really helpful, and that helped that. And next, she helped me. Well, she was helping me with all at the same time, but just going in order here. Next, it came to my urination and the feeling of constantly having a UTI, and mostly just the constant urgency. So what she had me do was she gave me this little plastic pan, I guess, like a bed pan, and I used it every time I went in the... I don't think this was helpful for me, but at least it had me conscious of what was happening. So it had measurements. So I'd record, like, on a data sheet, how much I peed each time, what time I peed, and then I also would measure approximately how much I was drinking, like a fourth of a water bottle, half, whatever. And we're basically trying to see, am I consuming the same amount I'm peeing, which I was, because some people apparently, like, hold some of their pee and don't let it all out. That wasn't an issue I was having, so, like, cross that off. But what was happening was I was peeing incredibly often, and really, for most people, what I remember her saying is that it's most healthy to pee every 2 to 4 hours. And it's fine if you go a little sooner or a little later, but in general, that was the most healthy. So I was going every 15 minutes. So, like, I aimed to go every 30 minutes, then I aimed to go every hour, then I aimed to go every 2 hours, and I got up to 4 hours. Around 6 hours, I would start feeling a little odd. But I started just drinking lots and lots of water, and she taught me about Kegeling too, which I'd heard about before, and you can, like, watch tutorials on to explain more than I have the capacity to explain right now. But basically, she said, do Kegels for like a minute and the feeling should subside, because a Kegel is what stops pee. If you're currently peeing, you can even try that when you're peeing, like doing a Kegel, it stops the pee. Stop doing a Kegel, the pee goes. And so this was just very incredible, and she had specific like things, like exercises to do, like doing like 1 second in, 1 second relax, 1 second in, 1 second relaxed. And then also for me, I was always bearing down. So learning, like, say this is your pelvic floor, you Kegel, you relax, you Kegel, you relax. But I was constantly like this, bearing down, like pushing out pee, pushing out, bowel movements. And so learning to get to this place of relaxation, which to me felt very foreign, it felt very scary, it felt like I was unsafe, like it felt like I was vulnerable. Where when I was bearing down, it felt like I had this shield, like I was pushing the world away from me, like you can't get me. But apparently most people she sees are bearing up, so maybe they're like scared and they're like hiding in themselves. But for me, I was pushing out. And so I got to this place. She actually placed like a little, I don't know what it's called, a little sticky thing to some cords and wire, and you look at a screen, and placed it down there. And you could actually see on the screen going up and down, the Kegels and not Kegels, the bearing down. You could see it on the screen, like this biofeedback. It was incredible. I felt so connected to my body, like especially as an autistic person. And oh, it was just so good. And I really, that was like my favorite thing, other than how kind she was. That was my favorite thing. And it was just, oh, it was incredible being able to see what my body was doing and help me feel what it's doing more. Because like I didn't feel it. And listening to some autistic people speak, I hear them saying like, I didn't realize I had a body. I didn't realize I had fingers and hands I could move. And like, I have always struggled with my interoception, knowing what my body needs. And it's like, I couldn't really feel what was happening down there. So that was incredible. Really helped me learn to Kegel. So yeah, sometimes we would do like 1 second in, 1 second relax. And then you do like 10 seconds holding, 10 seconds relax, or 1 second relax, or something. So there's different ways you can do this, feel what feels good to you. And you can do this at any point in time, just while you're sitting down, or even while I'm walking around doing things. You can just do this exercise and then it would help. So that's what I did. I just started being more conscious of when I'm using the restroom. For me personally now, rarely, I've been a little more lax with it recently, because this was like 6-7 years ago at this time. 6-7 years ago at this time. And but at the time I never preventatively peed, because usually people are like, oh, we're gonna go on this thing, make sure you pee first. For me, that was very unhelpful. It's also very unhelpful to always hold your pee. So if you do that on the other end, your bladder will get more and more used to it, because usually at 80% full, your bladder will give the signal to use the restroom. But if you keep holding it, it stops giving the signal and your bladder can get too big. So also don't just forever hold your pee, but also don't always preventatively pee. It's better to be in that middle realm if you can. And so, yeah, so now I'm just in such an amazing place. And she talked about especially people with pregnancy or older age, having not as much control of their bladder as they used to. And doing these exercises can really help anyone at any age and for any reason. What she was saying, get to a place where you're not peeing as often. And so that made me really happy. And I'll share something else that really helped with the peeing too. But it helped actually with the more sexual aspect of it as well. So leading into this last aspect here, which was really painful intercourse. So it seems like people can have pain in any different part, of their vulva or inside their vagina. It seemed like a lot of different things could be happening. So not all the exercises were helpful for me, but I'll share them all regardless. So what she was talking again was basically about reforming a relationship with your body where you feel safe. So using your own hand first, your own fingers or own thumb, and using some type of lubrication, and getting really comfortable, especially wherever it's most painful for you, where you're really slowly pushing around, like pushing side to side, pushing on different aspects of the inside of you to feel how it feels, and breathing and being really slow, being really gentle, and just reforming this relationship with yourself. So that was really helpful, and that's something she helped do with me and teach me how to do. The other thing was she had me buy, it was like this $40 kit of dilators. So they're like these little plastic phallic shaped things that are in different sizes. So it was like a kit of maybe, 6 of them or something, going up in different sizes. So you start with the smallest one, because some people have issues with dilation, like things a certain size feel okay, but then at a certain size they don't feel okay, or at a certain length they don't feel okay. So then it was like doing this, physical therapy, just as you would do with any other, exercise, where maybe 10 to 15 minutes every day or every other day. It was the same with this, where you do it 10 to 15 minutes every day or every other day, where you insert this dilator and you move it around very slowly. You feel how you feel, you breathe into it, you reestablish this relationship. For me, I wasn't too much a fan of these dilators personally, and what I found a lot more helpful for me, but is more expensive as well, is called a PeriFit. So it's instead this item that's it's a little smaller. It kind of has a bulb here and a bulb here, and then this like little tail thing. It's all silicone, and it's wireless. It's like Bluetooth, and you connect it to your phone, and there's an app. And so basically it has a sensor. It's two sensors, a sensor deeper and a sensor lower. It has this little tail so you can turn it on and off the thing, and so it doesn't get lost inside yourself. And I really like it because it's attached to an app, and basically it's the same. It makes me so happy. It's the same thing as the biofeedback thing, where that was, just like a monitor screen, a black line up and down and a little sticky thing with a wire. But this was wirelessly attached to your phone and had so many more aspects. You could look at the whole pelvic floor and see exactly what was happening, contracting, like as you're Kegling. And it had games. It has games. So, like, you can play, like, Flappy Bird on it. You can play, like, spaceship shooting things. They have dozens of games. They're incredible. They keep improving them. And they had them for, like, speed, endurance. They had, like, 3 other aspects. There's, like, 5 aspects, and it, like, scores you. And, it has goals and achievements and awards. Like, it's really fun. Like, it's fun, like, just to do, even if it wasn't, for, like, your health as well. Like, it's just like a video game, but you're controlling everything with how you're Kegling. So, like, the intensity, like, strength, endurance, speed. I can't remember the other ones, but one was, like, quickness, basically. And one was, like, longevity, something like that. But it was really incredible. They curate it for you, so they just make one for you, or you can choose, or you can just do the things like looking at the 3D pelvic floor, and you can rotate it and look at what's happening. And that made it really fun, because for me personally, the dilators it wasn't fun. I wasn't having like a fun time, perhaps a relaxing time, but it wasn't as helpful or engaging for me. But that was incredibly helpful. So I really loved the PeriFit. For me, I used it for quite a few years afterwards. All of these issues resolved already, but that was something I kept coming back to and just maintaining, basically. And what I really found interesting, and what I've found interesting in my healing journey in general, is first becoming aware of the issue, right? Which for me was these pelvic floor issues. Then accepting it, like even just accepting, okay, these are real and I need to do something about it. Then you're in the healing, which I've explained in this video. All these tools you can do when these things come up. Because even a few years after, if I got stressed enough, I would still have UTI symptoms without a UTI. But I knew what to do and I could get rid of them. I think at worst, maybe it would last like a 24-hour period. And then I had shorter times of maybe lasting a few hours if I was particularly stressed. But honestly, I can't remember the last time. It might have been years by now that I've had any type of UTI symptoms, like not related to an actual UTI. So it is important to get tested as well. If you have UTI symptoms, it was just the tests were coming back negative and antibiotics weren't working. So it was like a year and a half and it just kept getting worse and worse. But what I found is it's important to identify with whatever is going on. Just like I've talked about identifying with, I am depressed, I am anxious, like I have these things, right? I have DID. And then going to a place of then you're healing it. I'm healing it. But after a while, I actually found, for me personally, my PeriFit no longer was helpful for me because I realized it was putting, for me personally, my body in a state where I was identifying with having an issue with my body. And it was actually pushing back my progress or my maintenance of it. Where I realized I was doing worse in those following days, even though I was no longer having pain. with any type of sexual pleasure. So instead, what I did is I decided to stop using it, which I thought would never be something I would do, because I just kind of viewed physical therapy, as I'll explain in a different video I've had for other areas of my body, as something you kind of just always do to maintain. So I viewed that in terms of with this PeriFit as well, or perhaps like with dilators if that's what someone else chooses to use. But I realized, just as I no longer identify with having anxiety, having depression, even having DID, instead I view it as thoughts may arise that are like sad or anxious thoughts, but I'm not clinically suffering from these things anymore. And for me, when I was using my PeriFit, it put me back in this mindset of suffering with pain in my pelvic floor. But now not using it, but instead just connecting with my body when I am being sexually intimate, and just more using those feelings that I've cultivated over the years. That's been the most helpful for me. So instead of identifying as being in pain or as healing, moving forward to being identified with, I am healed. My pelvic floor is healed. That doesn't mean it's never going to hurt again, just like it doesn't mean I'm never going to have an anxious thought again. But I have the tool house. The PeriFit wasn't working for me anymore. So now instead, I can Kegel, I can use, like sexual toys that are intended for pleasure, in more of an even therapeutic way. But for me, using the PeriFit wasn't useful anymore, but was absolutely paramount for the healing process. So I would highly recommend it if you're having any issues, or if you even just want to like get stronger in that muscle. Like, I think if someone went into it more as like, this is just for strengthening, just like as a weight is for strengthening, and you just use it as, I'm strengthening my pelvic floor, because it makes you so strong. It shows you like how much you can lift, but it does measure in some sort of grams or something. And so it's really cool to see the progress. So I think if someone went through it in that mindset, or even shifted from a mindset of healing to healed and continued to use that tool, it just wasn't helpful for me anymore, then I think you could continue using it for yourself individually, if that worked, in a very healthy way, just to support your body. So that was my experience with pelvic floor physical therapy that helped me in those 3 areas. I'm so grateful I went. And one other thing she mentioned to me that no one had ever mentioned to me before was, one thing she would do is we would do just like stretches to help my body. And we're doing stretches specifically around the pelvis, like kind of the butterfly stretch, or like stretching your quadriceps. And she noticed that I was hypermobile, and I never knew that before up until this point. And so she was actually the one who taught me the only like modified hypermobile stretches I know, which are the butterfly one and the one for your quad. And I've since just myself figured out other ways to modify stretches for hypermobility that's causing pain. And, I told her about my other issues as well, primarily that when I was 14, I started getting migraines, and I had started having a headache. And so the headache never left me after this point. And so it was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So I had a headache for 8 years. Which just is so incredibly frustrating. I had a headache for 8 years. I thought it was just my life. And migraines like every month or so. And she told me about head and spine, neck and spine specialist who was a physical therapist. Yeah, I'll say for your head and spine. I think that makes sense. And so she recommended me go to this person after her. So after I finished my pelvic floor physical therapy, which took, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months, I graduated, I had all the tools I needed, and then I went to this head and spine physical therapist who helped me get rid of my 8-year headache. And so I'm going to make a separate video talking about my time there It was just so important. It really taught me about my hypermobility, and it got rid of my headaches. Like after, again, 3 or 4 months, no more headaches after 8 years of having a constant headache. So I'm really excited to share that information as well, and really to show that things not only can be maintained, but truly healed, truly significantly improved. There is hope, and you can have faith that your situation, your mental and physical health can improve. And I'm so eternally, incredibly grateful that mine did. I look forward to making more videos about my health, my journey, my story, and anything else that brings me joy and that I intend to bring joy to other people as well.